All right, welcome back to the latest Autonomous Humanity podcast. So I have a great guest here with me today, Mr. Serge Renard. So we met going back probably like 7 years ago, maybe
7, 8 years ago.
7, 8 years ago now.
After my trip from Brazil, and I don't remember how we met, but
I remember we met at the Keller Williams. There's I forget exactly what sort of event it was, but I remember there's like a toilet paper roll toss event. I think we were providing photo and video coverage of the event.
That's how we met.
Yeah, like when we first got started.
Yeah.
I remember you had a Harley. I don't know if you still have that Harley.
I still have it.
Yeah, beautiful bike. And then you came and actually joined us for one of the greatest events that we've actually still done to this day, that ride around Lake Lanier, where beyond it just being a great event for a great cause, it also, as I like to say, the best form of advertising you can do as a business is go provide the service or your product for free to someone that would actually provide value to, and they'll speak more highly about it than, any sort of advertising or marketing you could spend money on. And that one free event that we did, you joined us for, has led to tens of thousands of dollars of work since then. So
that's wonderful.
It's incredible how, all that works out. And I'm glad that you have been, supportive of us along the way. And I thought it was also interesting, beyond the overlap of the work that you've been involved with us to some degree. A big part of this Autonomous Humanity podcast is talking about a self-governing society, much as the founding fathers intended. And you had let me know that tomorrow, right, is or when is it, your 50th year in the
so I sailed under the Verrazano Bridge way back in 1969 after the Transatlantic, and I became very emotional because when I saw the Statue of Liberty, which I'd never seen in real life before,
I still haven't.
I had tears scrolling down my cheeks, and I said, one day, after watching all the John Wayne's black and white cowboy movies as a kid, I said, this is where I'm going to be coming. Well, 5 years later, actually 4 years later, in 1974, I met a gentleman by the name of Tom Cousins while circumnavigating. And they were opening the Omni International Hotel downtown in Atlanta. And they were opening in that hotel a restaurant called The French Restaurant. No other name, just The French Restaurant. And I got tapped to basically come to this country to help and open this restaurant. So I landed in November 25th of 1975. There were of course, no direct flight from Paris to Atlanta. You had to fly in from New York, and New York to Atlanta. Being promised, of course, that in Georgia the temperature is it's beautiful. Winter very mild. Winter very mild. Only to wake up on the 26th with 5 inches of snow downtown. And I moved here with $200 in my pocket, pair of jeans and short sleeve shirts. Nothing.
What did I get myself into?
Butt naked, literally. And so this is the story. And 50 years later, after some mild ups and downs, valleys and mountains, I look back on the 50 years I've been here, and it's been just a phenomenal trip.
So let me ask you to go back a little bit further. So it may be clear from your accent, but you were born in France, right? What part of France, and what year were you born?
Okay, so I was born May 5th, 1953.
Okay.
In small town, which is not a small town. Back then it was 50,000 people. It's called Quimper in QIMPR. In Brittany, France.
Okay.
So it's a very Celtic part of France.
And what part of France? More central, north, west?
It's basically the point of France which goes right into the Atlantic under the English Channel.
Okay.
Mont Saint-Michel, this is very beautiful. The coastal France is just phenomenally beautiful. It's about 350 miles southwest of Paris.
Okay, and now, what were your parents like growing up? So
my father, whom I got to meet through a very strange situation, tried to kidnap me twice when I was very, very young, at the age of 4 and 5. 4, I don't barely remember. 5, he was a army officer who had served in Algeria and served in Vietnam or Indochina, which became Vietnam, divorcing my mom, etc., etc. But I was the only son. I was the only kid that he wanted. I had a sister and a brother, but I was the only one. So he tried to kidnap me twice. That didn't work too well for him.
Are you the oldest, or?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
And my mom jumped on those things very quickly. And these are basic, vague memories to where he was arrested, etc., etc. Anyway, I really don't want to go into that because it has affected my life tremendously as a young kid, not having a father.
Yep.
The bullying, you name it, and people were not too keen, especially teachers and things. They were not too keen in helping kids that were struggling. They had no interest in doing that. So my childhood was very challenged in that sense.
And now, so you went through school like per mostly traditional childhood in France. What was that like? I mean, not necessarily from the personal aspect, but you went through like a more traditional like primary school or
secondary, etc.
Okay.
So my primary and secondary education basically also was a very challenging area, simply because, you know, usually in a school system, you remember the good teachers, you remember the bad. We don't have school reunion in France. That doesn't exist. So you never meet your classmate 50 years later.
Right.
That doesn't exist. I had 2 teachers. So usually you remember the good one. I don't remember the good one. I have vague ideas about the good one, but 2 of them I remember because they were so bad. And they were husband and wife.
Wow.
One was my math, physics, chemistry teacher. His wife was my English teacher, who basically told me, said, don't worry, don't bother, you'll never learn English. It's a waste of your time. Well, I was, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, and I never excelled in English, really.
Yep.
And the worst one was her husband, my math teacher. I would solve problems in my mind, but I could not explain how. So I had answers without using theorems, but it failed me every time because I could not explain the theorems that I used to solve this issue. And I basically became an anti-math and basically it was painful. The bullying was through the roof because I didn't have a father to defend me.
Right.
And I was also I saw my mom every other weekend. I was in boarding school. So were my sister and my brother. My mom was a struggling government official supporting 3 kids.
And so when you were finishing up school, had you already figured out like, hey, this is what I want to go do with the next chapter of my life? Like you were just like waiting to get out the doors of the school, like, all right, I'm free? Or were you like, all right, what next? What do I need to do?
So waiting, no pun intended.
Yeah.
I supported kind of myself in my youth, started at 15, 16 years old by working in a very famous restaurant, not too far from where we were.
Yep.
And after I gave all of that up, I knew that the hospitality industry was a very attractive industry back then. And I entered a concours exam to enter the French Naval Academy with their hospitality program. And I was accepted. So I was a very young, 17 years old back then. And then I was hired by the company called the French Line, which and sailed on the SS France, the biggest liner with the QE2 at the time, to do multiple transatlantics, around the world trip, countless cruises in the Caribbean. I mean, I was between my days of 18 and 23 years old, I was already earning pretty good amount of money, which I all wasted because I didn't have parents to tell me that you need to save, you need to do this. So I basically wasted a lot of that stuff. But that's basically my youth. And then I came here, and everything happened between the restaurant business, my own real estate, etc., etc.
But so you got a lot of world travels pretty early on, from 17, 18 to 23. So what was travel like at that time compared to now? I mean, what was the situation getting passports
so getting your passport, I have what's called
visas.
also a merchant navy passport, which basically has documented all the places that I've been, et cetera, especially with the French line. But documentation was not hard to do. I remember going through my official immigration issues with the American embassy in Paris. I think I had to take 2 or 3 trips to be interviewed and everything. But from as much as I remember during those days, everything was so much more simple.
Yep.
It was so much more simple. As to now, you have to.
The visa process. I mean, I think even
the green card process was fairly easy.
Right.
Now to become an American citizen, which I became in 2012. I had a green card, but I had to officially give up my green card to become an American citizen. So that was time-consuming. Was not hard. Yep. It's money and time-consuming, and that's basically it. But I believe there should be such program for people who are going to serve in Washington. The program they put you through to become an American citizen. They should put the American through the program,
right.
Because I bet a lot of these people don't have any clue at all about the Constitution, about how things work. And, they don't.
The 3 branches of government, the checks and balances between the 3.
The most important document in this country, Constitution is one of them. To me, has always been the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, now I cannot recite to you. I'll be lying if I tell you that I can recite the 10 articles.
Yep.
But I know a few of them.
Yep.
But most politicians don't have a clue, especially on one side of the aisle. They don't have a clue.
I'm actually been working on a column going down the Bill of Rights and giving, not a super long summary that no one's going to read, but, my thoughts on each of the 10 Bill of Rights.
Yeah, and it's very important.
I think so as well. And it is kind of a shame that I like to think of myself as, quite a bit more politically active, involved, aware than, the normal American. But similarly, like I could probably just be dropped in and I like to think pass the American citizenship test, but I don't know by how much, right? And, again, I like to think I'm further ahead of the curve than most, right?
It's available online.
I might need to take that and see.
Okay, it's readily available online, and you'd be surprised how many questions you will fail.
Yeah.
It's very simplistic, but again,
it's just you don't always think about it, right? And if it's not top of mind, you
take all these documents for granted.
Absolutely.
Not thinking how many people have lost their life protecting that document.
Right. And how many people abroad would still love to be, not protected, but, granted the freedoms and rights that we have, at least in theory, not always in practice,
That is correct. And to the political point, I came here a total, I would not call it, well, I was born in a socialist country, okay?
Yep.
So I came here fairly, with not a liberal mind, but a flexible mind,
yep.
Okay? And how much more exciting was it that the governor of Georgia was going to become president of this country? I was excited. I mean, I'm moving to Atlanta, Georgia, and the governor is going to be president of this country. A very funny anecdote after his failures is that I met him, he and I, side by side.
And we are talking Jimmy Carter, correct? Yes.
Well, yes. That's obvious.
Okay.
1976. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The sweet man.
Yeah.
Okay, so another funny anecdote, I was staying in New York at the Grand Plaza, and with my bride at the time, and I needed to go and relieve myself, and I went to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden I find myself in a bathroom with him standing next to me, And I kind of, just the two of us, Secret Service everywhere. And what was funny is, hi, Mr. President. Well, hi, young man. How are you? It was just like surreal.
Right.
And then back then, of course, I didn't think of anything. I thought the man is a great man, was a great man, but unfortunately made some very, very, very dreadful political decision.
Yep.
Like
maybe not the most competent individual for the role. I like to think really since Nixon, we can get back to thoughts on Trump if you're interested, but like. I think between Trump and Nixon, we didn't have any president that was either competent or has cared about the American people as much as Donald Trump has. And again, he still has many issues himself, but I think everyone since
Nixon... But those
Nixon,
are personal.
Yeah. I just think personally that every president since Nixon has either been a good actor, like playing the part well, but not actually like filling the role well, or just straight incompetent and, apparently so.
I would put Ronald Reagan into that the category of competent president. The man was not only hilarious, he was funny, literally, and he wanted to put the people and the country on the right track, which I believe he did. Then after that we have all the way up to our president today, a bunch of self-serving and competent people, looking more after themselves than anybody else.
Yep. That's where I do think it is far, far better what our country is experiencing under Donald Trump than what it would have been under Kamala Harris. Again, no one can know absolutely 100% for sure. If I'm a betting man, someone gun to my head, though, in on Donald Trump, right? But to your point, I don't like cryptocurrencies whatsoever. Call me a boomer, old school, someone that doesn't get it. But it just does really seem like Donald Trump has gotten into cryptos. The Trump family has gotten into cryptos to right a lot of their wrongs in business, to kind of pay off a lot of their debts. A lot of people have talked about how great of a businessman Trump has been. And he's been a great businessman in the sense of getting his name out there. But he's been a better entertainer than he has actual traditional businessman. Like to bring this up. If you even look at True Social, as one of his current business dealings, they're not making much more revenue, relatively speaking, than we are as a company. They make last year between, and this is a fairly big difference, but $1 to $3 million of revenue, yet it was hundreds of millions of dollars of expenses to actually operate the business. And if you go look at like his previous businesses, time and time again, it's a loss, and again, kudos to him for trying, and actually got into a little bit of an argument with a neighbor about this, where he was like, think about, all the families that he's fucked over and, but think about all the families that he's also been able to feed, right?
That
by taking on that personal, liability to where, imagine if he was as bad of a person as people like to make him out, he would have declared personal bankruptcy and he would have just not paid off all these banks, right? He went from a point where he was about $3 billion in personal debt to at least ahead of his presidency in the early to mid 2000s to $100 to $300 million of personal debt, right? And that's still like, how do you even get that far into personal debt, right? Well, if the banks keep lending you money, right? And he does have a famous quote about it that go on about, but it's like, I owe you $1, that's your problem. Or no, sorry, that's my problem to pay you back the dollar, right? If I owe you $1 million, that's your problem, right? Because, hey, Jacob has $1 million of mine.
The beauty, and I'm going to make two statements regarding the right and the left. The beauty of the right is that they have solution to the problem the left has created. The left is a body of people who create problem to which they don't have any solution, but blame the right for not putting the solution in place. It's an evil. It's totally evil.
Right.
And all of this started with Obama, and I won't mince my word with this guy. He is total failure. He's the reason why we have had such a dividing classes of people today in this country.
Yeah.
When you see what Trump has done in the first coming close to a year in, I would not call it power, because for him it's not power. For him it's solving the issues that the left has created for the past 20 freaking years to try to right the correction, to try to right this ship. It takes a business person to run this country, not some ideologue with pet project to enrich themselves. And that's what the left is all about. They could not run a hot dog stand on the street corner.
Right.
So how do you help them? Obamacare, for example, it's a total disaster.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, look at Kamala Harris's campaign, right? $1 billion
in debt.
Yeah. And again, that's where, like, Trump personally, from a business perspective, is he the best person? No, but I like to just look at it in a very simplistic way, kind of like rating women, right? 0 to 10 scale.
Be careful.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Jokes, people. No. But yeah, I would, as far as a leader to represent this country, one, I don't think if you were to literally survey everyone in America, if you could have any choice for anyone you think would be the best leader in this country, I don't think any one person left to their free will would choose Kamala Harris, other than like the 8 people involved in the DNC that appointed her, right? It's like, I don't even think if the DNC had a free and open primary, she would have even stood close to a chance, right? I think Robert Kennedy Jr., Dean Phillips, Bernie Sanders, all Tulsi Gabbard, all would have ran, ran the train, maybe not the best way to frame it, but I would maybe put her at a 2 out of 10 as far as being a leader for this country. And Donald Trump, I would, depending on the day, the week, or whatever, somewhere between a 6 at the low end and a 7.5 at the high end. So like basically borderline passing, I would have loved to see Robert Kennedy Jr. As president. I think, he, much like Trump, gets misrepresented more often than not. Again, not to say, he doesn't have any faults similar to Trump. I think less so. Of course, not as esteemed of a business person, but as I just covered, I think a lot of that is kind of misplaced. And then going back, I would love to see a Ross Perot type, that to me, the ideal sort of modern leader for
his
this
ideologies were just phenomenal.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of it was true. I've talked about this a few times, that the first time that he ran, apparently on election night, he was doing pretty well, looking to have like 15-20% of the vote at the time, and then got a call that like, hey, we have your daughter, or something. Like, he got a call like that. If you don't drop out of the race, something's going to happen with your daughter. And I don't know how true that is, but it sounds plausible, right?
The left has used basically everything in their power to just do that, stay in power.
Yep. Well, I think it's both, right? Because as you were talking about, the Republican Party oftentimes having great solutions that can never get enacted, because you have the left, saying, hey, one, if we don't get credit for it, kind of like Obamacare, right? That was originally proposed by Mitt Romney, right? But I think it's really been exposed that we really have more of a Uni-Party sort of system, because they would much rather have it that they always have a 50-50 chance at getting one of their people elected into office, versus what I think would be ideal, have nobody listed on any ballot. And if you want to vote, you have to write in the candidate that you want to vote for.
Yeah.
And that really, does away with the party system by and large. That way it's not, I'm just going down, the red team, or I'm going down the blue team. If you're not literate enough to, and I don't even care if like you need to write down your ballot on your arm going into the ballot booth, to make sure you spell the names of the candidates.
The candidate, right.
Yeah. Obviously that's very idealistic, but I could see that as a way to, bypass this two-party system that it's really, again,
well, there is only one
by
party.
name.
There is only one party for the people.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the Democrats.
Yeah.
They're not for the people. They are for themselves. The corruption, and I posted something on Facebook this morning about their corruption and how good they are at manipulating situation to blame the right, how good they are at manipulating just about every freaking young mind in this country. Anybody with common sense knows that 2020 was stolen. Do you know Dinesh D'Souza?
No,
you don't know Dinesh D'Souza? Write the name down. He's made a movie about that entire corruption during 2020. The man is a brilliant. He's just plain brilliant. He's just a phenomenal man. You can listen to him and his oration about government corruption and all this stuff. He's just brilliant.
Okay.
And watch his movie about
2,000 Mules.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
2,000 Mules. Watch the movie. It's going to open your mind about the corruption that went on in 2020, where they had people stuffing ballot box. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about putting one envelope, which is what they should have done. I'm talking about a stack of envelopes in ballot box. You're going to tell me that, like in Fulton County, they were pulling boxes from under table and they covered all the window with cardboard. All of this in that movie.
Yeah.
So people could not see what was going on. No, but before Christmas this year, in the next month or so, there are some things that are going to come down that are going to rise the less blood pressure.
Well, I think something similar. I don't know exactly to what extent, there's election fraud, election interference, like in the very tangible sense. But I do absolutely think in every single election that the United States has ever had, there's been some non-zero amount of election fraud, So it's just how much of it happened in 2020, enough to change the tide of the election. I'm not sure. Was there a lot of media bias and misreporting that probably had just as big, if not a bigger effect? Yes. And I think that's where a lot of the rhetoric comes from. Hey, the election was stolen. Yes, where there's some probably stolen votes, like very tangibly speaking. But I think even more so, it was the very clear bias that we saw through the 2024 election as well. Hey, we're just going to cover everything pro DNC and anti-Trump and nothing else, right? And I think going back to even 2021, there's a lot of misreporting around the January 6th insurrection, right?
That's coming to light before Christmas.
I think a lot of it already has for people that have been willing to actually have an open mind, right? Like, I didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016 or 2020 because I did think, well, he may not actually be the divisive one. He's just too divisive in the way that people think about him, right? But again, it came down to 2024. I was voting and campaigning for Robert Kennedy Jr. He made it clear he's not going to be able to see the race through and, supports Trump. And it's like, it does become, I hate to say, very black and white, but it was about as black and white as it got there. And I think as far as the 2021 January 6th event, you could see Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, literally a month prior, made it so they were the ones that had to be that had the authority to call in the National Guard, where people were trying to blame Trump for not calling in the National Guard, and it was actually Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi had to give authority to the head of it was either the mayor of Washington, D.C. or the head of the Capitol Police of Washington, D.C., who, again, wanted to call in the National Guard. But, Trump, Trump literally did not have the legal authority to do so. But, he follows due process.
That was a total fiasco, and everything is going to be exposed to where people needs to be thrown in jail. There are a lot of people on the left that need to be thrown in jail. Again, it's all about manipulating a system to stay in power. That's it.
What I worry about, though, is, and again, I like the line has to be drawn for somewhere. It's like if you are really going to be just totally morally, ethically bankrupt, leading this country, or aspects of this country like Fauci, for example, like I would love to see an actual, case against him, but, he's been pardoned. So, that
and other disasters that need to be held accountable for this entire. But, we all wonder in this country, actually the one that truly care about this country, like myself, we all wonder, are people really going to be held accountable?
Right.
They literally gotten away with murder.
Yep.
Literally. And
the case of Fauci, mass murder twice.
we the people have grown very frustrated but the wheel of justice turns very slowly. Yep. So we all have to be patient. But we all hope that during this presidency, people who really, really committed some serious crime, like the Comey and all these people, they all need to be held accountable, because it's sad.
Liz Cheney, who led the January 6th.
Liz Cheney, what a sour character.
Yeah.
Anyway, so also on the note, I had the pleasure to have personally met Trump 3 times at Mar-a-Lago.
Okay.
I was invited there by friends that I knew were very influential in Palm Beach, because I did go down to Palm Beach. I had some relation down there. And so I met the guy 3 times. And my opinion of him is very different than the majority of people, simply because they hate him for they don't have any idea why.
Right.
They just don't like the man.
Yeah.
And the reason why they vote the way they vote is because they don't like the man. They never looked at the reason why.
They don't like what's reported about him, more importantly, right?
More importantly.
Yeah.
But when you see the background of what this guy has done for New York, for a lot of, there is a lot of positive to be said about him.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, well, I don't like him.
Yeah.
And that's sad. The people that say, I don't like him, you cannot reason with these people to understand their reasoning. You cannot.
I've literally had someone that not only stated they don't like Trump and, there's no redeeming qualities, not saying it explicitly that way, but went even a step further and explicitly said there's nothing someone in the Trump family can do, because Trump had an uncle that was crucial in the Manhattan Project as a physicist. She was basically blowing up, It's no, no one in the Trump family, just for having the name Trump, and it's there is very much a Trump derangement syndrome, and it's
alive,
right? It's you brought it up, have an open mind, when you came into this country, right?
Well, I didn't have a choice. I didn't know any better.
Well, some people, don't know any better, and they still just dig deep into, what they don't know any better about, right?
The only reason why I became an American citizen, I had a green card.
Yep.
Now, originally, my green card was issued to me for life.
Okay.
And then some smartass in Washington decided, oh, no, you need to renew it every 10 years. That's what I was doing. And the cost was $400 or $500 to renew the card. Well, to me, that was a deal. I didn't really have any reason to become an American citizen.
Yep.
However, through the first term of Obama, I saw what this man was doing. I said, this cannot be. I mean, forget the fact that you just love the man because he's eloquent, because he's this, the man is a total disaster business-wise.
Yep.
And you cannot run this country like this. And the damage that he has done today, we're still suffering from all of that.
I agree.
And it's sad. It's just plain sad that young people, then of course the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If you're raised in a family of loonies, chances are you're going to stay a loony yourself, and you're going to raise your kids to be loonies. But if you are raised in a family of conservative that it educates you as to what this country is all about, how this country should, then you born and raised a conservative.
Let's just say I voted differently than my parents this election. And I grew up revering President Obama, because like you're saying, very eloquent, presidential in, the traditional sense. But then the more and more I grew up, looked into him as a president and his background previously, his time since, very much a stereotypical wolf in sheep's clothes, right? Hey, may give you the better exterior shell, but the moment you turn around, gonna stab you in the back versus, Trump, if he doesn't like you, and I do think Trump is a lot more agreeable of a person and will try to like you. And maybe to too much of a fault that if you like Trump, he's going to probably like you back, in like the brown nosing sort of sense, right? But at least if he doesn't like you, you're going to see the knife coming, right?
Well, not necessarily the knife, but he's going to make you aware that there are some faux pas that you have committed.
Right.
And he's going to try to still sit down and negotiate. Look at what just happened with him.
Like Mamdani.
With Mamdani, okay? Yeah. Mamdani all of a sudden,
who now
Trump, is being criticized by his flock.
Yeah.
Mamdani just was totally enamored by what Trump, and he badmouthed Trump. The man was totally disgraceful.
Yeah.
And he meets Trump, and all of a sudden he becomes one of the sheep because you cannot avoid Trump's power.
Bravado. Yeah.
Oh, he is something else. Anyway.
Yeah. I know you brought your map here. I would love to touch on. Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. But going back really quick to when you were first coming into the U.S., what, whether it's politically or just culturally, was most unexpected? Like, obviously, the United States is known for being this cultural powerhouse, as long as I've been growing up. Was it much different than the movies and whatever you had seen or heard of the United States versus like when you actually, landed and maybe within your first couple years? Like what really kind of...
To me, the country back then was grand.
Okay, yep.
When again sailing under the Verrazano Bridge, seeing this, everybody is huge.
Yep.
Everything is huge. The yellow taxi in New York, the buses, the smell. I remember my first burger at Howard Johnson in Times Square, where you basically had this fat burger with ketchup and French fries, and then you had to share a banana split with somebody because that banana split was twice your size. Those things like this made to me, that was the best thing. This is the reason why I needed to come here. I wanted to come here. In France, at the time, was basically after the Charles de Gaulle era. Yep. Charles de Gaulle probably being the best president of France. After Charles de Gaulle, everything became a nightmarish country because of the socialists and because all the people that wanted to be inclusive of everybody, more problematic than the French people itself, which now we're suffering from, and that's the Muslim population. Yep. And here you see what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan, and all this in Texas, where they're founding their own towns. And no. This has to be these people need to be put back in their place and say, we ain't having any of this.
Assimilate to America and American values, American culture, or don't come here. I mean, that's really...
but you see, they've done this in every country they go to, unfortunately.
And to me, what's very interesting, maybe not the best way of putting it as interesting, but... You see a lot of the rhetoric now against Israel, and it's like, where does all this come from? Aren't they, one of the purveyors of a lot of the American ideals that we have in this country, And it's like, all of a sudden they're the bad guys, against the, Islamic, monarchical, theocratic, regimes.
So I want to touch on 2 points here concerning Israel and Israel and the Palestinian. Palestine was handed by the Israeli, their country, after Israel left them. I think it's 1964, I believe it happened, where they left Palestine and Palestinian with an abundance of technology back for those days, an abundance of just about everything to do with their country as they wish.
Yep.
And who comes around? Hamas.
Yep.
And Hamas is the reason why Palestine and Palestine are today what they are. It's going to take a full generation to correct the wrong, unfortunately.
And maybe more,
My second point is you asking me what brought me to this country, et cetera, et cetera. When I landed here, I had a $12,000 contract, $1,000 a month plus, which back in 1976, if you put in dollar amount, it's definitely, you can multiply this by 3 or 4.
Right.
I was living the life of the rich and famous. I'm not kidding.
Yep.
In France, that didn't exist. Gasoline was 49 cents a gallon. I bought my first car, which was a 1972 Pontiac, Granville Pontiac, 400 cubic inches engine, V8, electric windows, air conditioning. Never had this in my life in France. I had the deux chevaux, which I still have. I have one today. I just bought one last year. I don't know if you know deux chevaux. Citroën deux chevaux, I'll show you a picture.
No, yeah.
It is phenomenal. So gasoline. Telephone in France, you had to apply 2 years in advance before you got a freaking phone in your home, which my mom did. Yeah. 2 years it took you to get a freaking phone in France. I come here, 24 hours, Southern Bell shows up at my apartment, install a telephone, I make a phone call to my mom, and I said, you would never believe what just happened. She said, well, what? Guess where I'm calling you from? Well, from a telephone. I said, yes, Mom. But there's a telephone in my home. I called yesterday and they installed it today. She could not. Nobody could believe that, how far advanced everything was.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And now, do you think that's a lot of those differences still hold true? More so, not as much? No.
Not anymore. Things have changed so much. The three people who founded Home Depot.
Yep. Arthur Blank, one of them.
Arthur Blank and...
I forget their other names.
He was my neighbor in Sandy Spring. Anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
They said...
Ken Lagone, Bernard Marcus.
Yeah. Marcus. Ken Lagone, yeah. Very influential Home Depot person in the background. But Arthur Blank... and Sidney Marcus. Sidney Marcus was a neighbor.
Yep.
You're talking about people who had ideas back then of a grandiose thing. They say today, because of all the government regulations, they could not do what they did. And you can see this clearly. When I came to this country, the first week here, I went to a bank, because it's now Regions Bank. Back then it was... something, I don't remember exactly the name. I just met the lady 50 years ago that helped me open my first bank account in this country.
Yeah.
And she recognized me. I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And she said, you came here with the group of French people to open the Omni? I said, oh my God. I said, how did you know? and she's the one that helped me open my first bank account. Not only that, they gave you I think they gave us a $300 or $400 credit line. You don't do this today. It doesn't exist.
Yep.
It doesn't exist. And the country was a lot more welcoming way back then than it is today, and a lot in part. And I know I'm going to touch on a very, very touchy subject: the division. Back then, the friends that I acquired, black or white. I learned the racial thing, which I didn't have any idea about, for personal reason, through my family, etc. We had friends from Africa, etc., etc. But I learned the racism. I didn't learn it from white people.
Yeah.
I didn't learn it from white people, and it's very, and the opposite side has used that race card forever and ever and ever. My daughter, who made the dean's list as UGA, was refused entry to law school because she was not in that quota.
Yeah.
All right? She ended up going to the University of Miami Law School and got, something like $150,000 in debt. I said, the first 4 years of college I'm paying.
Yeah.
Your higher education, $150,000, I cannot afford it. So she borrowed all this money.
Yep.
Because back then, banks just gave you everything you wanted.
Right.
And then today, you have people that cannot repay their loan,
yep,
that have a 4 or 6 year degree of higher education, so-called higher education, that barely make $50,000 a year.
Right. How does that add up?
No,
Right.
It doesn't add up.
Now, as bad as it's gotten, Do you think from all of your experiences elsewhere, there is a better place to, set up a new flag in the ground, start a family, start a business, make your life what you will? Is America still the best place to make the American dream, or do you think that's moved on
No,
elsewhere?
you can still build everything you want in this country. There will be a little more obstacles thrown your way, which
Yep.
you'll have to basically step over. But no, I think this country still is the best for anyone who wants to come here, especially especially people who are higher educated.
Yep.
Engineers, doctors, things like this, which are a lot more welcome. Or you can buy your citizenship. I think it's $1 million, something like. You can buy your own citizenship if you want to, if you have the money.
Now that's what I like to say. It's like if you have something that you really want to achieve in life, there's no better place than America to be able to do it. But at the same time, I like to think, if we're land of the free, home of the brave, that does come at a cost, right? If we're going to give you the opportunity to achieve the greatest heights that you could ever imagine, that means at the other end of the spectrum, that you should be able to fail more in America than you can fail anywhere else in the world, right? And that, is not the most popular opinion, right? But freedom does come at a cost, right?
Well, there is no forgiveness program anywhere in the world.
Right.
You screw up, you own it.
Right.
But you become successful. I mean, there are people all over the world that become successful in their own country.
Yep.
But the average is, very low, and their ideas are brilliant.
Yep.
But like in France, I see government is the percentage of people working for the government in France is astronomical. It's just ridiculous.
Right. I feel like a lot of, again, it's been more prevalent overseas, but it's become more prevalent in the U.S. until, again, this last term, I like to think it's changing, where it seems like government has become more of, how can we prevent people from doing and creating new businesses, new products, new services, instead of how can we help people create new products, new services, or at least get out of their way in being
by
able
by facilitating the
Right.
process.
Right.
They've made it a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, but there is also
or
a lot,
expensive, even
but
just
there's-
from a tax perspective.
but there are also a lot of things that government have created to make it more difficult.
Yep.
And the issue is that because this country has grown so much, lots of people are not honest.
Yep.
I used to do business on handshakes. As a matter of fact, I just not did a business deal on a handshake. It was with my contractor. I didn't need to sign any paper.
Right.
He told me this is how much it costs. Not a problem. Do it. I pay you. I didn't have to go into writing 15 different freaking articles that I was going to pay you. I didn't need to do this. I shook his hand and that's it. It was a done deal. Well, you cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
You cannot do this anymore. Back then, yes, but today, no.
I actually just heard, I don't know if you've ever heard of Michael Ovitz. He's the founder of a talent agency that was very famous and still is somewhat famous, called CAA, Creative Artist Agency, I think it stood for. And he was talking about how in his early days, all of his deals were just handshakes, because otherwise you just can't afford it. And it's only become more and more problematic, right? To do anything above board the right way, you have hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions of dollars, on legal expenses. That's something that we've even, encountered at the small scale, we're operating at. We needed to incorporate our business where we were an LLC before. That was $40,000 of legal expenses just to be able to, convert for an investor, that was coming in to invest in us. And it's like, that's basically taking almost, in that case, a third of, the investment to help build our company, just going straight to lawyers, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I've heard, I think kind of more succinctly put, one of the greatest cultural or societal differences between China and the United States. You have China where all of their politicians, they're business people, they're engineers, versus United
Highly
States.
educated.
Well, well, in the United States, they're highly educated, but from a legalese perspective, right? How can we look at everything from a liability perspective and an arbitration perspective versus the Chinese? How can we build this? How can we actually create something as opposed to how can we litigate and arbitrate it, right? And it's just very fundamentally different directions that we've taken. And obviously, as we talked about earlier, there's some very real problems, with China's government and, their society, both economically, but more importantly, I've thought about going over to China and even if just for a few months, spending time over there to do prototyping. But I'm just totally opposed to the societal structure that they have over there, where they don't have the same freedom of speech that we have, given again sometimes it's not always practiced to the letter of the law. At least we have those those processes, or those divisions in place, right? I mean, a big one also with China, to me, most prevalent in the drone space. There's the biggest Chinese company, or the biggest drone company is a Chinese company called DJI, and they've been banned from all the U.S. government agencies. They're about to be banned from even just being operatable in the United States. And a lot of the hobbyist enthusiasts that make money as like a photographer or videographer using one of their drones here in the U.S., they're like, why are we banning, these DJI drones? And it's like, even if DJI is 100%, acting in the best faith of the American consumer now, it's just a matter of time before the Chinese government can say, hand us over all of the data that you have over, all of your customers, whether they're in China, America, Europe, wherever. And at least in practice, or at least in theory, we have a subpoena and a warrant system where, again, there are platforms that we've seen like Facebook that have just willfully given a backdoor to, like the Biden administration. And, we haven't seen, our law always followed, to the degree it should be. But in China, there's not even anything. It's like, hey, give us all this information.
Yeah, you don't have any options.
Right.
Yeah, it has become just like in England today. I mean, there are people are being arrested for commenting on Facebook.
Yeah, more than in like Russia.
In England.
Yeah.
Or Russia, forget it. That's another quagmire of.
But yeah, like I think UK, the stat I saw, there's 10 times the amount of people arrested in the UK than in Russia for First Amendment violations.
Exactly.
Or, free speech
and why is that exactly? Because their own government allowed, just like in France, their own government allowed all this influx of immigration influx, which basically are taking, like the Muslim, they're taking over in all, I mean, the mayor of London is Muslim, the mayor of this is Muslim. You have so many cities, the mayor is Muslim. What is a Muslim? Why are you letting a Muslim mayor and have anything to do with how your country was founded? Once you allow these people to do what they want to do, you got a big problem. Right. And this is what's happening in England. Now, Sweden has already rebelled. Italy, I love that prime minister. She's beautiful, and she said, enough is enough. No more of your crap. Yep. A lot of countries are rebelling. In England, they're rebelling. Ireland, they're rebelling. People are going to use the people have had enough of your crap.
I hope so. I hope we continue to see more of that because, like we were talking about earlier with coming to America, you really need to come to America to be an American. And if you're not coming to be an American, then don't come. Even like the people coming across the southern border, I heard time and time again from interviews of people with seemingly the best of intentions, but it's for, hey, I want to come to America and then send money back to my family in my home country. Or I'm coming to America and with my family and we're going to make money here and then move back to our home country. And it's like, I get that's, what's providing the most opportunity for you and your family. But if you and your family are not wanting to become Americans and set up the next generation, don't come here. And quite frankly, I don't want to.
But that's our government.
Right.
We should not allow it.
Yeah.
And once you break the rule of once you break those rules, allowing you to become here as a free person to do as you wish, but you don't accept what we have to offer, you go back to where you came from.
Right.
Immediately. Yep. Not. We're not giving you a break here. Get out. We'll pay your plane ticket. You just get out. But we have weakness in our government branches, and the governor of Texas just is passing legislation to make it illegal to practice Sharia law.
Wow.
That should not exist in this country.
Yep.
We have 2 or 3 documents that makes it embrace what we have to offer. Don't bring your crap into on this soil. It just doesn't belong here.
Right, especially I feel like a lot of the people that you have supporting, these candidates or even just these sort of ideals, if they were to actually live in a country where these ideals are enforced like they are in most of the Middle East and other places around the world, they would be the ones beheaded or jailed, for what we all accept as okay, as part of Western society.
That's correct. All right, so what do we need to talk about next?
I would love to.
The map.
Yeah, the map. If there's a place you want to go, something you ought to know.
No, we can put it here.
Yeah.
So everything in blue, everything in green is where I've sailed.
Okay.
So rounding all the capes. I used to live in Tahiti.
I'm not gonna lie, that was just blown out.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I used to live in Tahiti simply because after certain your education back in France, it was mandatory that you had to serve in any branches of the government. Well, my background was merchant navy, so basically I chose Navy. But when I went to the recruiting office, the guy asked me, he says, because France has bases everywhere, Djibouti, Madagascar, Nouméa, Tahiti, they have French bases everywhere in the world. So the guy asked me, he says, well, I said, we have few choices here, Djibouti in Africa, you can go anywhere you want. I mean, we got plenty of bases. And he says, you need to give me 3 choices. And I wrote Tahiti, Tahiti, Tahiti. He says, you're gone. So I spent a year in the French Navy in Tahiti on a cargo ship approvisioning all the islands around the French Polynesian island, Bora Bora, Ereretue. Way back then, we had in Mururoa, we had our French nuclear experiment. So I got to go just about everywhere in the Pacific, and it was just phenomenal. And circumnavigation in 1974. And I have flown just about everywhere. Both my wife and I are avid sailors. So we just came back from Turkey, where we sailed. Prior to that, we were in Provence, Mediterranean Sea. Prior to that, we were in Greece. We have a trip booked for Spain at the end of January. In March, we are going to Croatia, Albania, Lithuania, and in May, we're going to Amalfi in Italy to sail. So being part of the sailing community with an organization called Met Sailing Adventure is just a phenomenal opportunity to go sailing all over the world. We were supposed to go to Thailand, but then we looked at the travel time. It's about 16 hours. We're both in our 70s.
Yep.
16 hours on the plane is not what it is. It should not be. It should be warp speed, but 16 hours on a plane is not warp speed. So, anyway.
What's the longest time you've been from one place to the other, like one continuous sail?
One continuous. The one continuous has always been a transatlantic.
Okay.
Yep. Because in the Pacific, you can go from, for
island
example,
hopping.
Island hopping. It's basically island hopping. Now, there's a few days at sea. Don't get me wrong, but continuous is transatlantic. That's about 5-6 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. I've been through hurricanes, typhoon in the Pacific, where waves are basically the stories of the height of a 5-story building over crashing on the bridge. I mean, it's and I enjoy riding. I enjoy riding the water. I mean, lots of people. I witness a lot of people throwing up and all this stuff. Me, I just love to ride the waves.
Full speed ahead.
Yeah, it's and sailing. We've encountered back in Turkey recently. We organized a regatta among the sailboats. And we won 2 out of 3 regatta, and I was the helmsman for both the one we won. And we had great tacticians. It was just phenomenal. So it's all good.
What's the closest call you've ever had on a trip at sea?
I've never really had the most.
Precarious, sort of.
Not precarious. I would not call it precarious. Challenging, I would say,
Okay.
is the element.
Yeah.
The elements are
A lot of sun and salt water.
yes, and it can be scary.
Yeah.
It really is, because if you've never been at sea, where you have wind gusts of 40 to 50 knots, which translate to 60 mile an hour, even those 60, 65 mile an hour, when you experience those elements with whitecaps and waves, and when basically one day, 1 minute you see a sailboat or a boat literally 2 or 3 nautical miles away, and all of a sudden there's nothing there, everything disappears, and then you go at the top of a wave and you see them again. It can be nerve-wracking.
Now, you've clearly been all around the world, right?
Yeah.
You ever do it in 80 days? I got to ask that. Around the world in 80 days.
Around the world in 80 days, yeah.
Yeah.
In 1974, the circumnavigation was it was 3 months.
Okay.
Definitely under 80 days.
Okay. And now, either on that trip or just like through all of your world travels, any place or places, of course, outside the U.S., being the best place, the greatest place, stand out as, hey, maybe like if America were to get blown off the face of the map, where would be, the next spot that you were like, this is where I just don't like to visit, but I could actually see myself,
For me, any of the islands.
Okay. Yep.
I spent time in Bali. I spent time in Borneo. Borneo, I did I was very fortunate to not be part, but be some kind of an influence in the a race. No, I don't remember. They have those races all over the world. And in Borneo, they had this race back then. So I was kind of with the French team, more or less. But a lot of these countries in Asia are Muslims. It's very, very hard to assimilate. They don't let you easily assimilate being a Christian person. It's not easy. But any of the islands,
Yep.
I mean, in the Pacific, even in France, south of France, you have Corsica, you have Sardinia, Sicily. All these small islands are very welcoming. Malta, but big countries, it'd be hard to go. Yeah, it's too much. It's just too much going on in these countries, government-wise. Too complex.
And now, as far as settling in the U.S., obviously you're talking about coming to the Metro Atlanta area with the opening of the Omni Hotel. Why not set your stakes elsewhere? What kept you here in Metro Atlanta? Just
simply because I made my life here.
Yeah.
Raised my children here.
Yep.
So when I was celibate in those younger years, when I first divorced my first wife, we didn't have any children, but I was basically for 2 or 3 years, I just decided to stay here. Yeah. I could have gone anywhere. I could have gone to California. I could have gone to anywhere. I have friends. Yeah. Actually, I've got a couple of friends in Texas, from the original 30 people crew. I've got a friend in North Carolina. And I've got a friend in South Georgia. So out of 30 people that came here in 1975, we're only about 5 people left.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody. My first wife went back to France. She didn't like it here. And today, we're still the best friends. Still the best of friends. She lives in southern Portugal. She also lives in Biarritz, and she's originally also from Brittany, where I was born and raised. So, yeah.
And you think you're here for the rest of your days, or do you ever long moving back to France or one of these islands? Or
I could not move back to France.
Yep.
I could visit France.
Yep.
The French culture, the food, the people,
Yep.
the people that I know, is phenomenal. I cannot stand
The government.
the pressure, the governmental pressure that they put on their own people.
Yep.
It's almost like you open your mouth and you always have to watch your back.
Yep.
You just can't do that. Here, at least I've got the liberty of expressing myself on Facebook, Instagram. I don't give a crap.
Right, not going to
But
be pulled out of your own home.
Exactly. This country is still the best. So if I could, I will never move anywhere. I live in Murrayville, Georgia, horse country. We have a beautiful home, my wife and I. We live, I would say, the perfect life. Traveling, sailing. I've got a few toys as far as cars are concerned. It's the best of the best.
Well, Serge, it's been great catching up with you. I appreciate you taking
And
the
me
time
too.
to come have this conversation with me. Is there anything else that you would like to share with myself or anyone that may be watching that you would like to impart them with?
Well, I want to thank you both for giving me the opportunity to share my part of my life story. There are so many more anecdotal things that are very funny from my sailing around the world, being put in jail in Rio de Janeiro during the carnival, things like this.
Having too much fun? No.
Having too much fun. A country like New Zealand is a must to go if you've never been. It's the people in New Zealand are just beautifully friendly. It's phenomenal.
One of the best people we work with came from New
It's
Zealand.
all right.
Yeah.
They're just a phenomenal people. And what else could I? There are so many more anecdotal things that I could share with you. But again, that's based on the 50 years that I've spent in this country, which has been very good to me, which is still very good to me. And fortunately, I won't be able to live the next 100 years to see what we are going to come to. It's not going to be pleasant for you kids. I've got to be honest with you. I think I have lived.
Not if I have my way. Yeah.
I think I have lived the best life that God had to offer in this particular span. Simply because prior to 1950s, radio was everything was in infancy.
Yeah, or non-existent.
From the 50s to today, I've experienced things that, all you could do. If you remember Mel Brooks.
Yep.
During the Louis XVI, being the piss pot guy, going around with the piss pot.
Yep.
And the wheel. That's all these people had, really. They had a lot of invention, but that was, the inventions that have been created in my lifetime were primordial to what you guys are going to see. But with the AI technology today, using AI today doesn't give the young characters time to think.
Right.
Everything is created for them. I see this as a detrimental tool.
Yeah, I think it can be used correctly, but yes, if given too much access too early on, I think it then becomes a crutch instead.
It solves every issue.
Right.
You go to school.
Right. I don't have to think through this myself. I'm just going to type in a simple prompt to give me the answer.
Yeah, but you were raised. You were raised in this era where you had to use thinking.
Yep.
Okay.
Read from actual books. Yes.
Today everything is created for you. All you have to do is go to GPT or Gemini or and I use it a lot today.
Yep.
Simply because it basically solves a lot of issue which it doesn't create critical thinking.
Right.
Everything is done for you, which is of course great. Older people, this is phenomenal. But for younger generation, it's the critical thinking has to still exist.
I agree.
And if everything is handed to you on a silver platter,
it's going to be next to impossible to develop later in life.
Oh, it's totally impossible.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I'm very, very privileged to have known you guys for this amount of years, and I have to admire you both for having created this. And hopefully you need to come sailing with us and bring one of your drones so you can fly around my boat and show me the video that I would like. If you guys are available, not too busy from your schedule, I would love to invite you to do that one day.
One day, I don't know exactly what day, but yes. And then maybe in the meantime, there's the local drone park that we have here in Forsyth County. We can go out there and get you hands-on with one of our drones as well.
I would love to do that. I don't know how much government requirement there is out there to have your license to fly a drone.
Recreationally, you don't need one, but if you want to make money with one, then you need a license. And that's part of the evangelization that I do, because in the way that drones, I think, need to be adopted, at least for this country to stay relevant technologically and really leapfrog where they're already ahead of us in China, is we need to have the ability for every individual household to own their own drone or drones, that even if you're not sending it out to the local store, right now it's illegal for me to send like my drone out from my front yard to my neighbor's front yard.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to have them loaded up with a cup of sugar or a couple eggs or, a couple slices of bread or whatever, that's illegal if I'm not always keeping my eyes on the drone. Where I think we already have plenty of laws. If something were even worst case scenario, my drone were to fall out of the sky, land on someone's head, charge me with manslaughter. We don't need to make a criminal out of me for operating a drone illegally, right? Where we already have, laws to protect, something bad going on.
Well, I have a degree of admiration for you two guys for what you have accomplished, because from the time we met each other and knew each other to where you are today, I'm like, I love success. I love business success. I admire business success. I'm not jealous. I've never been jealous of, I've had my successes and my failures, but I've never been jealous of people who are overly successful. To me, I have a degree of admiration.
It's inspirational, I like to think.
I have a degree of admiration for people like yourself that is just beyond the average mind. I just admire and I love seeing success stories.
Well, thank you. You're too kind.
No, I'm not too kind. But anyway.
Serge, it was
yes,
great.
sir.
Thank you.